there are some theories that OGs are selling, but I really don't think that that's necessarily the case. It could just be people moving and migrating coins to new wallets or to multi-sig or improving security. So I just think there is a supply shock coming and nobody sees it coming. And one day there just won't be enough Bitcoin.
Bitcoin's fixed supply of 21 million is driving scarcity as demand from individuals, institutions, and nations grows. Samson Mow, CEO of John 3, dismisses speculation about major sell-offs, noting that recent wallet activity likely reflects security upgrades and long-term confidence in Bitcoin. With supply tightening, a massive price surge seems inevitable. Stick around for Mow's insights.
What do you see coming in the future? There's so much happening in the media, both good and bad.
Yeah, so you kind of hit one of them, which is God candles, $10,000 candles on the daily chart in one day. And the next step, I think, is the Omega candle, which is a $100,000 candle on the daily. Hopefully green, but possibly red.
That's a good caveat.
Yeah, like we had a red Godzilla candle recently, right? It went down like 13,000. So it can go both ways. But the trend, I believe, is that we're going to see Bitcoin become much more turbulent in bigger swings up and down as we go towards $1 million per coin and beyond that, because this is sort of price discovery. And I happen to lean towards the side of green candles, because the way I look at the demand and supply imbalance is just so skewed that it makes me fearful that it's just going to come all at once and we're going to see this Omega candle just rise up nonstop for a whole day as people pile on into Bitcoin. Because you can see, like, even though we're up here, we're not really moving that quickly yet. And the demand from ETFs and from MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, it just seems ridiculously skewed. Like there is 20x, sometimes more demand just from ETFs in a given day. And that does not seem sustainable to me. And there are some theories that OGs are selling, but I really don't think that that's necessarily the case. It could just be people moving and migrating coins to new wallets or to multi-sig or improving security. So I just think there is a supply shock coming and nobody sees it coming. And one day there just won't be enough Bitcoin, and that will just trigger this recursive demand shock coupled with this supply shock that just shoots us straight up vertically. The whole concept of cycles is interesting. I don't really believe in cycles, and before I get into it, I just want to say, like, there has been talk of a super cycle where Bitcoin just goes up and doesn't stop. I think it'll come. There will be fluctuations, there will be volatility, but it seems like the concept of cycles is not something that is in line with Bitcoin. We've had 3 cycles, I guess, that look similar. But the first cycle, like the first 4-year period of Bitcoin, the first epoch, I think you can't really count that. That's just early price discovery and formation of the Bitcoin price, right? It's very, very immature and very fragmented market. So you can say, like, there's been 3 coin tosses and they kind of look similar. But why would Bitcoin continue on mirroring 4-year periods ahead of it when adoption is exponential? I just don't see why that would be the case. So eventually the cycle, or what appears to be a cycle, should break to the upside. And I guess this is what Omega is about. It's just a breaking of the cycle. And I think an Omega candle would definitely break some of the models out there, like maybe stock to flow, and definitely what's the other one?
Power law.
They're useful as a guidance, but I think saying that Bitcoin is going to follow this exact model is very dangerous, because Bitcoin just does its own thing. Like it's not like people were thinking to, or there people were being recommended to trade against the power law. Like when you get up here, sell everything, and then you buy back cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite dangerous because
I agree.
you could never buy back again cheaper, right? There is no guarantee. And I think you just have to look at the writing on the wall, which is adoption seemingly is growing exponentially. Like the US, a world superpower, is mulling over creation of strategic Bitcoin reserves and significantly adopting Bitcoin in a major way. And I believe that's going to trigger a lot of follow-on behavior from other countries too. Like there is discourse now in Russia to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and other countries too. So it's really just a matter of time. And when the US does something, everyone's just going to pile on. With the debt, the US national debt the way it is now at $36.2 trillion, I don't see them paying that off. It's just too big, and the interest rate to service that debt is just growing exponentially. And the question is, will spending stop, and can they taper it? And I just don't think they can stop spending. There's talk of a Department of Government Efficiency to kind of cut costs, but it's to be seen if that will work or not, because you're going to cut some costs there. You'll cut some jobs, government jobs probably, but that is going to make a lot of people unhappy. And what that leads to is that they vote in the other guys next term, right? So there's a delicate balance here, and this is why I'm really bearish on the world being able to survive in a fiat standard, and they absolutely need to go to a Bitcoin standard, because any attempt to fix the current problems through cost cutting or austerity or anything is going to push people to the other side, because everyone wants free stuff. So the window of opportunity to actually fix something is very narrow, kind of like we're talking about before we started the podcast. When we at Jan3 try to engage with the government, we have like a 2-year window for any given administration to do something. The first year, they are not well prepared. They're still, building out everything and preparing and getting into place. Then you have the last 2 years, and then you have the next 2 years, and then you have the last year, where either they're on their way out and they don't want to do anything, or they are preparing for re-election and they don't want to take any risks. So even within a 4-year term of any government, there is only really half of it that is viable to push something forward. And it's the same thing like when you're trying to fix the country. Like you have a very narrow window, because you're going to have to deal with the next election soon after. So I guess to answer your question, I believe they have to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, because the dollar is diminishing, and really the only net buyer of treasuries is Tether, right? Stablecoin issuing. China is tapering, and the BRICS countries are probably going to taper and step away from the dollar as well. So then if there's no demand, what are you going to do? You have to do something, because the US is just is broke, basically. They're massively in debt, and there's no one willing to buy their debt. So yeah, I think strategic Bitcoin reserve is definitely on the cards, and even possibly more, like Bitcoin as legal tender, Bitcoin used as money.
El Salvador is making waves by adding 6,000 BTC to its national reserves, showcasing its commitment to cryptocurrency. This move sets an example for other nations to reconsider reserves and explore alternatives to traditional systems, aiming for long-term stability and growth while hedging against inflation. Now let's hear more from Samson Mow.
Well, money is just human time and energy. It's a way that you can store your time and energy for the future. So you can work harder, produce more goods, and your goods might be perishable, right? It could be fruits or vegetables, but you can sell them for money and then store the money for the future. So I wouldn't say it's like a battery, but it's a way for you to store in this ledger. And I believe the ledger has to not be corruptible by anything, because that is how people end up stealing from other people, right? When you have central banks that can print money, they can effectively steal your time as a person by removing value from the instrument you stored your time and energy in, which is, for the most part, digitized or paper pieces of fiat. So that's the biggest thing. Money is really a way that you can motivate people to do something, right? Because it is valuable. It is stored value over time. And being able to print money just lets you manipulate and control the population. I had a podcast with the guys at Unchained, Dhruv and Joe, and we're talking about was Bitcoin discovered or invented?
Yeah.
But somehow that conversation meandered over to what we're calling Bitcoin astrophysics now. And we're kind of theorizing what happens if other civilizations have a Bitcoin, right? And my thinking is that the biggest threat outside of ourselves and tinkering with Bitcoin and decentralizing it is really aliens. Because if you have an alien civilization with more advanced technology, we really don't have anything to offer them. And if you think again of what I just said, that Bitcoin is stored time and energy, human time and energy, we don't really want, they don't really want our technology. Right? Do they want a Tesla? Maybe to play with, in the way that we might have wanted a beaver pelt or a bead necklace when those things were money. But do they want a Tesla or even Starship as a technological thing that they can use functionally, practically? Probably not. They have more advanced technology. So basically, they would be rendering Bitcoin useless at that point if there was an alien civilization with their own version of Bitcoin. Because we would want their Bitcoin because we want to buy things from them. We want their spaceships and their cars or their flying cars or their anti-gravity engines and whatnot. And there is a theory that it's OGs selling, but I really don't think that's the case. You don't hold your Bitcoin from $10 to $100,000 and then suddenly decide, I'm going to sell it all. Maybe you take some off, but I don't believe those statistics that say OGs have sold a few $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. I think they're just moving to cold storage or upgrading or whatnot. So where does that come from? There's a couple theories. One is that there's sort of a pool of coins on exchanges somewhere in the 2 million mark. And that is sort of sloshing around, facilitating market making, maybe arbitrage, and maybe trying to trade. And I think what's happening is some of that is being whittled down because they're trying to sell it, but they may not be able to buy back. So it's just a matter of that the new buyers taking it off of exchange. But I have a feeling that that's actually whittled down significantly, and we'll see the effects of that soon. The other theory I had for long sideways periods is simply that there is some entity out there or some exchange that is naked selling Bitcoin that they don't have. And
scary.
There is precedent for that, which is FTX.
Yeah.
They sold Bitcoin they didn't have, to be put. And theoretically, if you just sold Bitcoin you don't have, then the price should keep on decreasing. But at the same time, you might notice that Bitcoin dominance is increasing, right? So my theory is that there are some entities out there naked selling altcoins. And people that buy altcoins, they typically leave them on exchanges. So there can't really be a run on the bank. There's no such thing as proof of keys for altcoins, right? They're either staking it or they're leaving it there for group staking, or staking through staking services, or just for trading. But you don't really take altcoins into your own wallet. It's just not a thing, right? So if this entity exists that is naked selling Bitcoin, needs to top up, what they can do is naked sell some altcoins to rebalance their Bitcoin holdings, because I would imagine that it's some sort of operating entity, and they need to meet Bitcoin withdrawals sometime. So what they can do is naked sell altcoins, buy back a little bit of Bitcoin, and that should give you the sideways action, right? It goes down a bit and it comes back up, and it kind of hovers around. But I don't think this is a long-term sustainable thing if this is happening, but that's my theory.
Bitcoin's current quiet phase might signal a looming supply shortage that could drive prices higher. While some speculate early holders are selling, Samson Mow suggests they're securing their Bitcoin, reflecting long-term confidence. With buyers holding onto their coins, the supply on exchanges is shrinking, intensifying scarcity as demand grows.